Good evening, and welcome back to the Weird and the Wonderful with Strange Bones. That's me. And we are sort of coming towards the end, so to speak, of the current section of our Weird and Wonderful. And of course, that is the topic of witches, and we are ending it with a certain degree of a bang, so to speak. As we look at a number of interesting things. And as you know, we've been going around the world to different countries and cultures and having a look at some of the more important things out there just to see what's what. And we are finishing it off with the Middle East, which I think is going to be a reasonably good one. So, as we start things off, let us begin our live with a little bit of housekeeping, of course, because we have to, and of course we have to welcome the Scoutmeister himself. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're in fine and fabulous form. How are things going? I trust that you are having a wondrous, wondrous day, and of course are ready for a fine weekend as well. And as we start off, remember guys, we have only one rule on this channel, and that is you have to be polite. And should you not be polite, we will give you the immortal boot. But yeah, that said, cold in Cape Town, sorry brah. On my side, it's nice and warm. We've been having a pretty awesome bit of warm couple of days, and I'm pleased for that. So, yeah. But as we get along with things, huge thanks to Jay for sharing the live. And with that, I'm going to remind everybody like, share, subscribe, do all of those good things that can keep the channel going strong so I can do more and more. Voldemort, yes, I could be Voldemort. That would be pretty cool. I would like to do that. Well, I might look like Voldemort, but alas, I don't have his particular talents. I do, however, have a live about witchcraft at the moment. And of course, it includes all kinds of things, supernatural and paranormal in that regard. And we shall jump around and look at different things. But tonight's topic is the witchcraft of the Middle East. And I approve greatly of this to round off. Can I talk to the dead? I don't know. Would you like me to? Are there any dead people you want talking? Maybe I am dead. Sometimes I feel it. Nevertheless, and that said, you never know what might be found. Now, thank you. Generally speaking, you will find that it's considered to be an exceptionally bad idea to try to speak to the dead. Apparently, and in fact, very much in tonight's topic, they say that it is an incredibly bad idea. And in fact, we know because one of the most famous witches of the Middle East is in fact the Witch of Endor, mentioned in the Bible. And she indeed was an expert on speaking with the dead. And I believe it was Solomon that went to her to get information which did not go well because you're not allowed to do that, it seems. Do I know what a skinwalker is? Yes, I do know what a skinwalker is. They are part of the Navajo traditions. And despite what a lot of people think, they are not a cryptid. They are actually a person, a witch of a sort, but somebody who has done things so specifically evil that they transform into something truly terrifying. What do I know about the Illuminati? Well, that's actually an interesting question, and I will tell you why. Because if you actually do a bit of research on the Illuminati, you very quickly realize that nobody seems to agree as to exactly what they are, which is a strange thing. It seems that either they are successfully one of the most secret societies ever, seeing as nobody knows anything about them, or they don't really exist, which is another possibility. Well, what do I think they are? Good question. It does in fact relate to tonight's live, and I will tell you why. Because according to at least one version of the history, oh, thank you there, Jay. According to one version of the history, they started out way, way, way back when in the Middle East. And during the Crusades, certain of the Knights Templar apparently joined them and brought the knowledge back to Europe, where other people joined as well. And therefore, it has its place in an extremely ancient society, shall we call it, that may or may not have certain religious connections in certain ways. We're not exactly sure why, which might connect to the Freemasons, but might not. There, you're on very dodgy ground in making any particular connections. Now, what they are supposed to do is be seekers of wisdom and power, and fairly powerful, apparently. We don't know for sure. Some say that they are connected to the Freemasons. As somebody who, in fact, does know something about the Freemasons, I will tell you that no, they are not connected to the Freemasons. The Freemasons are actually quite different. There might be people that are both, but it's unlikely because the Freemasons have a very specific view of how things should go and what should happen, and it is quite different to what the Illuminati apparently are. Now, according to what I have seen thus far, they are supposedly the group of really, really powerful and rich buggers that actually run the world. In which case, my answer is they're probably doing a fairly crappy job because the world ain't running all that good. Unless it's part of their plan, in which case it's going great. Not too sure about that. Now, when I say seeker of wisdom, one wonders whether they are looking for spiritual wisdom or greater knowledge or a lot more money or a combination thereof, none of which seems to be agreed on by any of the research I ever did on them, which makes it a very strange situation. Some say that they are satanic. There is no indication that they are. That actually is it to keep order or well, that's a big question. So Vro asks, Do I think that the Illuminati is propaganda, or is it to keep order or something? That is the big question. We're not actually sure because, well, I suppose being an incredibly secret society, they are in fact secret, and therefore, if you did know, you wouldn't tell, and everybody else doesn't know, which is kind of the point, I suppose, which is quite different to what the Freemasons are and do, which is largely a charitable organization that's aimed at understanding the self and improving the self, and helping literally free workers. In other words, not indentured workers or slaves. Um, it comes out of the whole craftsman thing on their side, so it's a very different thing. But they might have connections to the original Knights Templar. Do we know? No. Unfortunately, we don't. Would we like to? Oh, hell yeah. Apparently, they're supposed to know all kinds of things. Um, could we ever find out? Probably not. It seems that. Oh, the Knights Templar. Okay, so let me give you the history of the Knights Templar, which is actually a fascinating one. So, way back when, you had what they called the Crusades, which was an attempt to free Jerusalem from the enemies of religion. Now, bear in mind, this is what was said at the time. I strongly point out it is not the view of the channel. We neither promote nor denigrate any such things. We are merely reporting the history because it gets a little touchy. Okay, so putting it out there, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or anything, just this is the history. So at the time, it was believed that Catholicism, Christianity, was the only true religion. And the fact that both Judaism and Islam had presence in Jerusalem was a mortal sin. Therefore, a whole bunch of warriors gathered from all over Western Europe marched over to the Middle East to free Jerusalem in the name of God. Now, many of them were knights. It was such a big deal that, in fact, if you agreed to go and fight for God, even if you were in prison as a convicted murderer to be scheduled to be executed, if you took up the cross, as they called it, you would be freed and sent out under God to go there and fight. It was that serious, okay? Now, there were a number of groups of knights, okay? So those buggers on horsebacks with spears and swords and plate armor, knights. So in that regard, these knights banded together into a number of different groups. One of the groups, for example, were the Knights Hospitaller, which literally were your precursors in a way to paramedics on the battlefield, quite literally. But one of the groups were the Knights Templar. And they were very important because they were immensely effective. They were very, very good at what they did. And they obviously, when they conquered places around on their way through the Middle East, they naturally took from the infidel all of the things that the infidel no longer needed, such as large amounts of gold, jewels, and all the rest of it. Yes, they were thieves. But they were doing it in the name of God, so it was okay. Now, as they did this, and I did say it with a touchy subject, okay, they became immensely rich. But there was a problem. You see, at the time, France was ruled by a king by the name of Philip the Good, okay, Philippe le Bel. And he was in severe financial difficulties trying to sort out whatever was going on in France, so he borrowed money from the Knights Templar. Now, here was the problem. He couldn't afford to pay it back but he was a king and they were mere knights. So basically, what he did, in collusion with a couple of archbishops and I think a pope as well, I misremember the finer detail, they accused the French leader of the Knights Templar of being a Satanist. Now, if you were a Satanist and a heretic, not only were you a criminal and therefore arrested and executed, but all of the things that you own, hey Jacqueline, all of the things you own thus become property of the crown, i.e., all of the money that the Templars had managed to put together. Okay, so right off bat, you see where this is going. So on Friday the 13th, which at the time was not a thing like it is today, they arrested the leader of the Knights Templar. Hey, Jacqueline, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Okay, so they arrest this guy on Friday the 13th, and when they do it, they swiftly take him off and burn him at the stake on the grounds that he was clearly a Satanist and so on and so on and so on, and confiscated all of his money, which was a lot. But before he died, he laid a curse upon the Pope in question and the king, and his curse came true within the next 3 months. Which now, of course, is why we say that Friday the 13th is such a terribly unlucky day. So that's who the Knights Templar were. Yes. Did you know about that, Jacqueline?
No. I was just catching on what you were saying, but it sounded really interesting.
Yes, so the Knights Templar are the reason that the Friday the 13th is unlucky. They are the reason that we have this sort of connection to the Illuminati and all of that. They might be a connection as well between the Knights Templar and the Freemasons, though it's a bit tenuous in that regard. They were said to have gained a huge amount of money that was never found, and it may or may not be hidden somewhere between the Middle East and France. Nobody's sure where, and it's never been found. But we do know from historical record a huge amount of gold and jewels and all sorts went missing somewhere.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, it is. So there's a lot of stories about where it is and what is. You remember the movies The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown? Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote his books using that basis as for his story. What do I know about the pyramids? I know that they've got 4 sides and they are pointy, and they may or may not be tombs, and there may or may not be things under them. I do know that if you put a razor blade inside a glass pyramid, just a small one, obviously, it sharpens up the razor blade if you angle it right.
Oh, shoot.
So they are certainly very weird. We do know that, as we've seen, in fact, from previous lives when we covered the topic of curses, that they have some pretty funky curses in them.
Oh, probably, yeah.
And that some people say that some of those curses came true when the archaeologists broke into Tutankhamun's tomb. Some say no, it wasn't true.
No, there'd probably be a truth to that. I'm pretty sure of it.
Okay, Vro, I'm going to ask you to hold off on that question, and here is why. Because we're finishing up on witches tonight, we're going to move on to weird architecture. Now, you might ask why. Because there are a number of things and places around the world that don't make any sense.
Yeah, for sure. The pyramids, exactly.
Pyramids are one of them. And
Big
welcome
time.
to Endless Thoughts. Hello, my dear.
I'm sorry, I'm being so
No, it's
like,
all good.
yeah, come back. And the pyramids, definitely, they have a lot
Well,
of
we
unexpected.
are going to have to talk about them, but before you think, oh, Egypt, no. There are pyramids
Oh,
in Russia,
oh
Greece,
yeah, for
Egypt,
sure.
South America, um, somewhere in Canada as well, I believe,
Oh my
Africa,
word.
and several other places.
Shoot,
Why so many pyramids? We will
that's
look into that in
crazy.
due course. We
Yeah.
will also be talking about places like Göbekli Tepe, if I pronounce that right. We will also be talking about some of the Mayan carvings, which don't make any sense. So there's a whole lot to explore there. So that strange architecture and archaeology. Um, and Endless Thoughts is absolutely correct. There are pyramids in Zimbabwe. There are
Oh my
indeed.
word.
Now, obviously, oh, the Dogon. If you know anything about the Dogon of Africa, you will know that they are a very strange tribe and they make little pyramids, no more than about 10 to 15 feet high.
What are you having to drink tonight, Strange Bones?
Coffee. I always
Oh,
drink coffee.
coffee. Having your coffee. Sorry.
But just so you know, we will at some stage talk about the Dogon because basically, and we don't understand why, they are a tribe that has never felt the need to advance their living beyond a basic mud hut and two goats. They apparently have no particular advancement in technology, science, any of that. However, and here's the bit that nobody can understand, they have accurate star maps of star systems that only very recently were we able to even see using the most advanced telescopes. And they were correct in every way. How?
Oh, wow.
So
Scary.
there's a great deal to check out. It's going to be interesting. But let's finish off with our witchcraft because I see Jay is asking, how does witchcraft work exactly? Well, it depends on the type, of course. And tonight, of course, um, we are going to do the Middle East and Judaic witchcraft. Do we think witchcraft existed or still exists? The answer is yes to both. Witchcraft did exist and has existed for a very, very long time, and still exists today in a number of forms, as we will see one of them tonight, because it's a very big deal. So let's get started with that, guys.
Yeah.
Um, as we know these days, the Middle East is largely Muslim, not entirely. Um, some of it is also Christian, and some of it is Jewish. There are also lesser sized groups of different religions as well, but by and large, those are your three big ones that you will find around there. It was not always the case because we know that the Babylonians, the Persians, and that lot also had their own religions and things there, and more. But we do know that they have affected each other, and so you have a general view of things like the evil eye, which we've seen in a lot of places. Much thanks for the likes there, Endless Thoughts. Are we going to be brave and try and add you today? Let's see if it works. We will do our best, just in case.
Please join.
For some reason, TikTok gets very annoyed and doesn't like her joining
Yeah.
things. We don't know why.
That'd be
Nevertheless,
nice. Yeah.
okay, so the evil eye is something we absolutely do know about. The ability to put a curse on someone by line of sight, as they call it.
Really?
Um, which is quite a big deal in the Middle East. We also know that there's a great deal of belief in jinn, what we in the West call genies, which
Yeah.
are in fact even spoken of in both the Bible and in the Quran. So
Yeah, I've heard about that.
they
Religion.
are absolutely part of, and apparently, how to get witchcraft? Apparently, the jinn can give you that power. That's
Yeah,
apparently the
for
truth.
sure.
However, it is considered to be very, very bad and you shouldn't do it. But as we progress, let's see where we are. So, the concept of witchcraft has very deep roots, and early Mesopotamian societies associated uh, bad magic or black magic, malevolent magic, usually with foreigners, poor people, and for some strange reason, actors. Not quite sure
Uh,
why. Maybe that's a thing because as somebody said in our last live, why is it so many Hollywood actors claim to have made a pact with the devil? Maybe
oh
this is,
yes.
maybe there's something to it. Who's to
But did you
say?
but did you hear about the last thing that happened? The new was it the what does that movie?
What
It's not the
the
exorcism,
Conjuring?
it's the Conjuring, the new Conjuring movie that had people there, priests
Yes,
at
they did.
the.
They did indeed.
So you gotta like wonder just what the hell's going on,
There
because
might be something to it.
I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. I won't lie,
Well,
but
we'll like a good scare.
it's, yeah, we all like the good scare. But I'm like thinking, because the original Exorcist, the story behind it that people are talking about, people getting killed on the actual cast of the movie, and
There
yeah,
was that. Well, according to the next step of this witchcraft thing, do you all know, I hope, what the Abrahamic religions are? If not, I will tell you. The
yes,
Abrahamic
please.
religions are those religions which have all got the same root and, in fact, do worship the same God, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The first one being the Jews, Judaism. The
Of
second
course.
one being Christianity. Remember that Jesus was a Jew. The
Yeah.
Christianity is the new version. Um, that's terribly sad. Okay, then, my dear. But definitely do try because I've been trying to get you on to the live for goodness. It must be over a month now. It really has, hasn't it?
Oh, endless thoughts. Yeah, they giving you issues, eh? It's
Yeah,
really
I don't
funny.
know what it is. I'm actually having a couple of TikToky problems as well. Sometimes
Yeah.
it can get very
I
weird
don't
about
see.
things.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're having issues there so much.
Don't know.
I do
Nevertheless,
realize.
um, no, the jinn are not Chinese or Filipino. They are definitely from the Middle East. And in fact,
Yeah.
the word jinn is Arabic, which of course brings us to the third religion in the Abrahamic trilogy, which is Islam. Islam is the third of the Abrahamic religions. And if you follow the progression, uh, Jesus was the evolution, if you will, of Judaism, bringing
Yeah.
Christianity. And then the prophet was the evolution of Christianity to make it truly true, according to the
Yeah.
belief. Um, and that's how you get Islam. So the Abrahamic religions refer to those three. And the weird part is, um,
I think they were referring mostly to that movie. What was it called? The Exorcism. It was just called The Exorcism. Anyway, this girl, she was part of the Jewish society, and her father, she got possessed by a Jewish
That was
demon.
said, yes.
That was,
So
yeah,
these
in the Bible.
particular creatures show that the Abrahamic religions have a very complex relationship with magic.
Yeah,
Some of the forms of divination, for example, were quite acceptable in ancient Judaism,
yeah,
but most forms of witchcraft were forbidden. In the Quran and the Bible, witchcraft is pretty much condemned as truly evil. Um,
yeah,
but, and this is critical, all three will tell you that magic is real and
yeah,
spirits
for
like
sure.
this definitely do
No,
exist.
for sure. This whole thing of the conjuring, all that, you can understand that that's not false. That's not.
Well, so they say. That is one of the reasons that we do this, to find out. And
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't know what is happening with poor Endless Thoughts. 2 days is a long time you have to wait. Or I don't think it's you, to be honest. I have a strong suspicion that because there's been some updates to the TikTok platform, and
Mm.
things have been going a little bit wonky since the update. So I suspect it's them. Um,
No, I definitely don't think it's false. I mean, whatever's been happening with that, it's not.
Absolutely. So we will keep going, and as much
Yeah.
as you can, and with as great care as possible for our
No,
track
I'll
record,
be here, and if you need
um,
to ask me questions, I'm
we
here.
will do that. But
Um,
Endless Thoughts, do make comments if you are able to, as much as TikTok allows.
I'm trying to keep on watch because that movie I want to see as soon as I can.
Well, we shall
Because,
see.
but as
So,
soon as I watch it, I will definitely say whatever I'm thinking from it.
that sounds good. Okay, so the evil eye and the jinn are definitely things believed in all three of the Abrahamic religions. Curses as
Yeah,
well are
for
believed in
sure.
by all three of the religions. We do know that spiritual protection was a big deal, therefore, and
Oh
as a
yeah.
result, people would do quite a lot of different things, and in fact, do to this very day. Um, and while people might say, oh, it's not like that, I'm terribly sorry, but it absolutely is. How do you get rid of those curses? Well, amulets
Oh,
is the most preferable one.
oh, yeah, probably.
Blessings from spiritual healers and special rituals. Now, straight off bat, sorry for any Christians being upset. You wear a crucifix, do you not? A cross. That is an amulet.
Oh,
We indulge in exorcisms. That is a specialized ritual. We get blessings from
but
priests. That is a specialized blessing.
but
And
what
that
I'm,
is true of all the Abrahamic religions,
but the
just
thing
so
is,
as you know.
sorry I'm asking this, but with the loss of the exorcism, the Conjuring movies, the devil made me do it kind of thing.
Never saw it, I'm afraid.
Oh, didn't you see it?
Nope.
Okay, yeah. Where what they found was they found an actual witch. She had made like a like a like a cauldron, not a cauldron, like a actual table where she was conjuring this demon or whatever, like a
Okay.
tablet.
I think that a
And
lot of that, though, is very much movie stuff,
yeah, it's movie
rather
stuff.
than real. Both there are some links to it. Does the
Yeah.
cross contain power, and are evil spirits afraid of it? Well, if you're Christian, uh, any Christian would say yes, absolutely. And in fact, the use of the cross in that regard stems from the Emperor Constantine, who claimed to have seen the cross appear above the battlefield of a battle he was about to fight, and a voice from heaven saying, by this sign you shall conquer. And it was then that he became a Christian, won the battle, and basically enforced Christianity across Europe. That was his thing.
And holy water, maybe, right?
Well, holy water goes along with your use of amulets and things, but yes, that's the origin of the cross. Prior to Constantine, the cross was not a Christian symbol. So only in about the year 3 or 400, I misremember exactly, does the cross feature as a Christian symbol. Prior to that, the proper Christian symbol was a fish. Ictus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The cross was not an original Christian symbol.
That's
There you go.
interesting.
But
Okay.
that said, moving along with tonight, even today, magic remains believed in the Middle East, and there are even legal consequences to this. So in Saudi Arabia, even quite recently, individuals have been executed for practicing witchcraft or sorcery with convictions based on accusations of causing harm or misfortune through magic. So it's believed in sufficient that the official government legal system will take action against it, even today. So it is believed in, it is a serious thing. There are a number of different communities and traditions, of course, but some of them, if they are out there, are going to be very, very, very quiet because, yeah, you don't want to get arrested. Nevertheless, they do exist there. Some of them are even neo-pagan, the modern thing. Some are animist, and others in that regard. So we do have a presence. Now we've got a question there. Is Karasu a jinn or evil spirit? I have no idea what Karasu is. So I cannot answer that question.
But as I say, normally on an empty box TikTok, there is like a little plus icon. I can click request to join. There should be.
I don't know what there is. I don't know
she's
what is a
talking.
Karasu.
Oh no, was it Endless Thoughts? She's
Yeah, I
trying
haven't
to
got to
join
that one
our.
yet. Normally on
Okay.
an empty box on TikTok, there's a little plus icon that I can click to request to join. At the moment, I only see a little person. It's because TikTok is being a pain in the posterior region. But I
Oh
will
shit.
send another invite
Yeah, because she should
just to...
be able to join us.
She should, in theory, especially seeing as she's a moderator as well.
Yeah, and think, yeah.
But we shall try. Nevertheless, we are going to keep at it until one day we get it right and the world ends suddenly because the impossible
she's been here
occurred.
quite often, so she should be able
She's
to
been with me since the beginning of the channel. She's one of my best. Is magic or witchcraft satanic? Not necessarily, and this is a critical point, because in general, what we've found with this whole exploration is that society accuses witches and magic of being satanic in many places. But actually, in most cases, it's just a older or minor religion that most people don't follow, that the prevailing religion says you shouldn't. So no, it's not. However, there are, especially in the modern day, certain people, because there's always some, who do in fact deliberately choose to worship Satan. So their practice is satanic. But by no means can we say that witches in general are satanic. But then again, it's a religious perspective. Now, we know that specifically the Jewish witches were believed to use incantations to conjure up things and were considered in many ways to be a specialized group. Now, when it comes to that, one of the big things to come from the Jewish people is what we know of as the Kabbalah, which most of us view as a kind of witchcraft. Is it? Well, kind of yes, kind of no. They would say it's not. But it is a mystical or esoteric practice that is not part of mainline Judaism, but does have religious connections, if that makes any sense. Let's get into it. So, we know that it comes from the Jewish mysticism. The key to Kabbalah, apparently, is that it represents a universal system of mysticism via letters and numbers and names. And that is the actual key point to it. Letters, numbers, and names. And many times in our lives, as we've gone along, I've pointed out that most witchcraft, as we know it, is animistic or shamanic, things like that. I have pointed out that there is a numerical version of magic. This is it. This is what we are talking about. Do witches have a limit to their power or spell? I have no idea. I couldn't answer that. I
That's
suppose it's who you
frustrating, eh?
ask.
Because a lot of people ask that, like,
Is
if
there a
you,
limit? I don't know. Some would say yes, some would say no. I've never tested it myself, so I couldn't tell you. It would depend. The Kabbalah, they say, emanates from God. If it emanates from God, theoretically at least, then no. If God is omnipotent, eternal, and all the rest, one would assume not.
God.
So, have I ever done witchcraft? Impossible to answer, because if you'd been following all of our lives, you would realize that what it is so massively varied, there is
Yeah,
no
different.
one thing at all. But the
They,
Kabbalah is a Jewish practice. It applies its principles in what is often considered to be a hermetic context, focusing on achieving spiritual attainment through the understanding of sound, color, number, and vibration. Okay, so it's a mathematical form of magic. Uh, it literally means reception in Hebrew. Um, to receive. So, if you are a person who is practicing the Kabbalah, you are considered to be a mekubah or a mekubal, a receiver. Okay, so you are receiving the wisdom of the universe by and large, by proper use on mathematical principles. It does connect to things that were taken across and used in Western Europe as kind of a sorcery and very twisted from the original Jewish practice, involving things like the greater and lesser keys of Solomon and all of those things, which originate with Solomon in the Jewish traditions, right there. So there are a number of things. It's an idea that there is a mysticism or magic or power in letters and numbers, teaching practitioners to use all of these things to achieve what you want. Now, I will throw a thought to you. Even today, the correct way of writing things we call spelling. Yes, with the word spell in it. Because words in a great many cultures are indeed magical. So, we have different ways that it might be translated exactly.
yeah,
It gets very sort of complicated. Um,
but people that
but so we can't go too much into all of it. But
No.
basically, what we're looking at, it is a religious system. There is a tree, as they call it, which is a system of hierarchies. It uses understandings of how the different worlds work, how your different states of being work, and may or may not also involve the summoning not of demons so much, but of angels. And of course, that means you do need to know about the hierarchies of angels and demons. Um, we know that it was of great interest between the 12th and 13th century, very much so, and spread, in fact, outside of what are typically known as the Jewish lands into Germany. And in the Rhine, there was the famous school of Judah the Pious, which reinterpreted all of these things in a Jewish mystical renaissance that went on into the 16th century. We know that in Ottoman Palestine, the Zohar was written, the foundational text of Kabbalah, probably written around the 13th century by Moses de Leon, who was a great mystic among the Jews. There's a whole history of how it's developed and where it's come from, and it does link to established Jewish religion. However, just because the Kabbalic side of it is Jewish religion, it doesn't mean all Jewish religion is Kabbalic. The Kabbalic side of things is a smaller group that not all Jews follow. And there, I would imagine that there are Jews who will say, no, we don't have anything to do with that. They stick to the traditional Jewish understanding of things and all of that. But there is a group as well. It's kind of like saying all neo-pagan Wiccans are witches, but not all witches are
but
neo-pagan
please,
Wiccans. Yes.
but please take care. I'm sorry to say this out of place, but please take care of your health.
My,
I'm worried about you.
why are you worried about me?
I know it sounds terrible. No, I'm sorry to say that, but I can see your tension is.
Oh no, I was just at the
Very-
clinic, so that always leaves me a bit. Yes,
No, I'm sorry.
I
I'm just.
I have chronic. I'm a chronic diabetic, so every now and then I have to go and get
No, sorry. I
stuck
didn't
full of
mean to.
needles.
I didn't mean
Nope,
to.
all good.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to insult you.
Not
I
at
was
all.
just.
Is all good.
I could see your tension was rising quite a bit.
So, having
But
said all of this about the Kabbalah, we know that there are several important books that, if you are into it, you would say are the important stuff. Most will tell you that the important part is spiritual improvement. We do know, however, and this is where things get very sort of conspiracy theory and fascinating, that they have an incredibly complicated alphanumeric vision of cosmology. And this leads to all kinds of strange codes. So things like the Da Vinci Code literally come out of this, that there was some kind of hidden code that some say, even if you take the Bible and you apply these special codes or ciphers to it, you will get hidden wisdom or something like that. Now, is it true? We don't know. Welcome to Ziva.
Elizabeth.
Um, but as we say, we don't know if it's true. But then maybe if we were masters of the Kabbalah, we would know whether or not it was true. I'm not. I was never good at maths. So as you can imagine, the chance of me ever being good at the Kabbalah is probably zero.
It's
Throwing it out
okay.
there. But it's a
No,
big deal. Now, this has been developing since, they say at least, and there's certain reasonable reasons to think at least early versions maybe did, since the time of Solomon. So, not young. It says that Elijah, Ezekiel, and even Moses were key figures in this and had knowledge and special powers. We know from the Bible that when faced, when with Moses coming and saying, "I want to take the Israelites out of Egypt," the Pharaoh brought in their sorcerers who proved their powers and did all kinds of things in order to somehow scare Moses off. And at least according to the Bible, he turned around, matched them spell for spell, and beat them at their own game. Huge thanks for the hearts there. That is so kind of you, Endless Thoughts. I always appreciate. Um, oh, and thank you there for the roses as well. So I'm wearing my glasses instead of my contacts to give my eyes a rest, and my vision is not quite as good as it should be in that regard. So I'm missing one or two things, and I'm watching the comments very carefully for that reason, just in
that's
case.
great. Don't worry. Don't
Um,
worry about it.
but nevertheless, so there's a whole ton of stuff, even within the Bible, that seems to imply that this mysticism and power was important. We also know, even from both the Torah, the New Testament, and the Quran, that one of the key things in all of Middle Eastern thought is the understanding that names matter, writing them,
Mm,
what
okay.
letters are in them, what numbers can be put to them, and which name is what. And for that exact reason, we know that in the Bible, God is referred to as the name above every name. We know that
Yeah.
even today in Jewish um, normal religion, you can't be a Jew if you have not been able to recite the Shema. Shema Yisrael Elohim Adonai Elohim Echad. Okay, you have to do that. If you can't do that, you cannot be a Jew. I'm not a Jew,
Okay.
but that
Wow.
was, yes.
That's
But the really strict ones won't say the word God. So
that's
translated, it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one." And if you go through the whole thing, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and your neighbor is yourself, and you shall write this upon your brow and upon your chest and upon your arm, and you shall teach it to your family and to your neighbors, and speak of it when you sit and lie down." This is fundamental to Judaism, okay? And it's all about the name, because a strict Jew will say, "The Lord your Lord." They will not say, "The Lord your God," because you may not speak the name of God. They are that strict. Um,
good.
Names matter. Names are everything. The name you are given, the name that you are um, baptized with, christened with, whatever, these names hold power. And in mysticism, if you know the true name of a thing, you control it, including
Yeah, for sure.
including angels and demons.
Exactly. That's where exorcisms come great.
Correct. And this is a belief that shows up in Christianity, in Judaism, in
Yeah.
Islam. So names are critical. Knowing them is everything, which then leads to the next bit, which is, now where did I put it? We are not talking about Yurdos yet. We are looking for the hierarchy of angels. There we go. So angels have a hierarchy, and the different ones have different powers, different authorities, and different strengths, different ranks, different appearances. Now, we all know that you have things like Cupid, that little guy with the bow going. Okay,
Oh yeah.
technically
Yeah.
he is a cherub. It's a
Yeah.
modern birthday card type corruption. The real cherubim are a rank of angel. Okay, so you have the
Yeah.
seraphim, the cherubim, the angels, the archangels, and quite a few other things, the thrones and more. So the different levels matter greatly. So you will have, for example, the Chayot HaKodesh, the Ophanim, the Erelim, the Hashishmalim, the Seraphim, the Malakim, the Elohim, the Bene Elohim, the Cherubim, the
It's
Ishim,
crazy.
the Elim, the Shinarim, and the Tarshishim. So those are your ranks of angels, and your ability to know them, to command them, and control these things matter. Now, it is
Yeah.
said in the books about King Solomon that he did command these beings, angels and demons, and that's how he built his great temple.
Oh
It's
wow, that's
in the
cool.
scriptures. We also know that there were witches. And in fact,
Yeah.
Solomon went ahead and contacted one. And we see it in the Bible where he spoke with the witch of Endor. Now, it was also spoken with by Saul to summon the spirit of the prophet Samuel. Saul wanted advice defeating the Philistines in battle, and after prior attempts to consult God through sacred lots failed, he went ahead and contacted what was a proper necromancer. Remember, a necromancer does not
Yeah,
make
yeah,
zombies.
for
They
sure, yeah.
speak with the dead. Mancy, the ability to talk to. So she was a necromancer, someone who could talk to the dead. But what they got was not the ghost of Samuel. And in fact, whatever came up delivered a prophecy of doom against Saul and his army, and they were indeed defeated, as we see in chapter 28, verses 3
Yeah.
to 25 of Samuel, which is also mentioned in the Deuterocanonical book of Sirach. So, who was this chickie? Well, she was a woman, possessor of an Ob, whatever that is, at Endor. Endor was a settlement around a spring. Now, the word Ob or Ov has been suggested to mean a ritual pit for summoning the dead from the netherworld to speak to them. Maybe. The word has difficult connections in Sumerian, Akkadian, Hittite, and Ugaric, so it's hard to pin down exactly what they were talking about. But clearly, she was some kind of spirit medium,
Oh
okay?
yeah, for
An
sure.
engastrimuthos, if you will, from the Septuagint, if you prefer the Greek.
Yeah.
Koine Greek and such is not very good for writing these things out. The Latin Vulgate says Pythonium, but that's even worse of a translation because it refers back to
Yeah.
the old Roman understandings rather than what it might have been. So
That is definitely,
she was a
yeah,
medium of some kind. Whether
for
she was a
sure.
complete witch, we are not sure. But it did not go well. And to answer uh, Zara's question, proof, in fact, that what you don't want to do is try to contact the dead in any manner or form, because
Yeah, for
at
sure.
least according to this setup, it will always end badly. Better to summon an
Yeah,
angel, they say.
exactly. Yeah,
Now,
for sure.
there are different um, levels within your Kabbalah. And obviously, the higher you get, the more power you have and the more secrets, apparently. I do
Mhm.
not know it. We know that it is a theosophical theurgic tradition, which basically means to us simple people, it is a religious connected philosophy of magic. Okay, so it's sort
Yeah.
of not proper religion in proper Judaism, but it works alongside it, kind of thing, in that way. That would probably be argued by a lot of people. I imagine those that are supporters of it will say, no, this is true Judaism. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not a Kabbalah.
I
I'm
know.
also not Jewish. So take what I say as broadly okay, but not necessarily an expert on the matter.
Yeah, you can't say for sure.
Okay, so we do know, though, that this then went across from uh, the Middle East into Western Europe, where it became very strongly intertwined with other forms of witchcraft and magic. And you got a kind of class separation where
Yeah.
witches were considered to be the lesser because it was more animistic and shamanistic, whereas a real sorcerer used the proper stuff, which was very mathematical. And if any of you have ever seen one of the Keys of Solomon, I mean, the first thing that you will realize is that it's massively complicated. And apparently, it has to be done exact, the spellings, the writing, the numbers, every last little detail, the angles, the whole lot.
Did
Otherwise, it won't
you
work.
did you ever hear that story that it was called the exorcism? It was about a Jewish girl that got possessed
I do
by
know,
a
I do
dibbot.
know that
What a
story. A
dibbot?
Dybbuk.
They call it a
A,
dibbot
a
box.
Dybbuk.
Yeah.
The Dybbuk, well, a Dybbuk box is a box by means of which you would control
Yeah,
a
it
Dybbuk.
was. It
A
was. Yeah.
Dybbuk is a kind of Jewish spirit, which may or may not be the Jewish equivalent of a
I'm not
jinn, or
sure.
it may or may not be some kind
Yeah.
of a demon. It's a little bit difficult to say. But it is generally considered to be fairly malevolent.
Yeah. That, I'm sorry, I just brought it up because that was quite interesting to me. That was kind of like,
Well, yes,
uh,
there is that. So, how do you do Kabbalism if you are wanting to? Which I certainly would not. Too much mathematics. Uh,
no, no, no.
it involves a great deal of study. You have to study all of the esoteric texts, like the Zohar, to get the hidden meanings that are concealed within the Torah. Practitioners may have to meditate extensively on things like the Sephirot and the divine names in order to get a
Yeah,
connection with God and the universe.
for
Names,
sure.
again, make note. It is generally only properly passed on from a master to a student so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the
yeah.
teachings remain person to person. Prayer,
There was,
focused
yeah,
intention, and all of that will align you with the divine energies in order to be able to bring about what essentially is the magic, if you will.
for
Um,
sure. There was a connection there somehow. Yeah,
that's where
definitely.
it comes. And
With the
with it,
whole,
you've
yeah,
got the writing of divine names, particularly onto amulets and other similar techniques, um,
yeah,
which allows you to control things, which
Yeah,
is
for
kind of the
sure.
point. Okay, so
There was
it's
definitely, yeah, there was definitely a connection between all those things. They were able to do the exorcism properly through that. Yeah.
that yes, Dybbuk's matter. So the hierarchy of angels comes in because they are the things that will lead you along the tree of the Kabbalah. And it's been described by a number of different people. One of the most famous descriptions comes from Dionysius the Areopagite, uh, an old Greek philosopher, who said it is divided into three triads of 9 orders. Okay,
Yeah,
remember,
for
3
sure.
is holy, and 3 times 3, or 9, is the most holy. So the highest order is the seraphim, cherubim, and thrones, the top angels. The middle
Oh
are,
shoot.
yeah, so you see the connections now.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Okay, now the middle one is the dominions, virtues, and powers, the middle rank of angels. And the lowest are the
Yeah.
principalities, archangels, and angels.
Oh
Now,
shoot.
remember, demons are fallen angels, but nevertheless
Yeah.
still angels, which means they have a connection as well. Okay, so they have a hierarchy, slightly less defined, but nevertheless they are still enforced within the order that God foreordained. So your
Exactly.
demonic hierarchies are presented as well within the books, like the Book of Abramelin, with princes and sub princes that govern the lesser levels and so on down. So,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? So, 3 triads, 3 choirs, okay? You thought that the choirs
So,
were just
no, no,
singers?
no.
No, no, no.
No, no, no. What you're saying is totally making sense.
Okay, so
Big
the
time.
seraphim are the highest order, known for their intense love of God and having 6 wings, which we know from Isaiah. The cherubim
Yes, yes.
are guardians, such as the ones who protected Eden. The thrones are associated with justice and judgments and carrying out God's divine judgments. Middle order, the dominions oversee the orderliness of the cosmos. Virtues, who associated with maintaining the order of the universe, like cosmic movements, and powers,
Yeah.
responsible for mitigating evil and maintaining balance. Then you have your lowest order. Now, as someone getting into this, you are using specific levels for specific powers. Remember that. So,
Yeah,
principalities
for sure.
that oversee the earthly realms, guiding and influencing nations and leaders. Archangels, which are high ranking messengers like Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel. And then angels are the lowest ranking beings that serve and interact with humans. So, yes, you have an angel servant. Hey, Murray,
That's amazing.
welcome, welcome.
That's amazing.
So, that's where the guardian angel comes from. It is
But
one part of
I
the Kabbalah.
but I have a question for you as a person.
Yes,
Like, in general, would you like to ever be like present in an exorcism?
I have been.
But and what? Oh, sorry, I didn't expect that answer.
I used to work and assist. When I
And
was a monk, I worked
but
alongside the
do
chief exorcist for KwaZulu Natal.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like
That's quite all
aggressive in
right.
that question.
Yes,
But like you're yeah.
I used to be a monk in the Catholic Church. I worked alongside the chief exorcist for KZN for a while. I have been to
And
exorcisms.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna put you in a position where you need to answer questions that you don't want to answer. Never. But no, sorry, that
Ask, just
question was
ask.
like,
Yes, I
no,
have been
I
to
want
an
to ask you.
exorcism. I've seen
I don't want.
exorcisms. They are
I know that's
scary. You
something.
don't want to go there.
Exactly. But no, I respect that, and I'm not gonna ask any more questions. But
It's quite all right.
the thing was like, I was just what I was gonna ask is if you would be ever interested to be in a part of exorcism.
I
I
have
wasn't gonna ask
done so.
exactly, but I'm not gonna ask you anything about that because that's obviously not. It's not. No, I won't put you through that.
That's
But
all
anyway,
good.
all I was gonna ask is if you would ever be interested to be part of something like that. But I
I
won't
have
ask
been,
you
yes.
exactly, and I'm sorry for that. And
No,
I
it's quite
won't
all
ask
right.
you how that was, and we can just move on from that because I know that's definitely not something you wanna.
Okay,
That's not.
so Jewish amulets, which is technically witchcraft in the broadest sense of the word, technically. Okay, including now you've probably seen these. The Hamsa hand. It's that funny little amulet that looks like a hand. Very often has
Oh
the Star
yeah,
of David
sure,
on.
for sure,
That
yeah,
comes from Jewish protection from evil. Okay,
yeah.
having a red string bracelet for protection and healing
Oh
and
yes, yes,
to
yes.
ward off the evil eye. That's again a thing. The use of putting scripture literally in small containers that are worn on the arm, the chest, and the head, as was
Yeah,
instructed in
sure.
the Shema. Okay, using salt and herbs, which are done in all of the Abrahamic religions. Your holy
Yeah.
water is made with holy salt. Did you know that? Yes,
Oh
it is.
shit. Like obviously, holy water
Okay.
will be a hot salt.
We have
It's not just water.
rituals that exorcise demons, very much a
Yeah.
practiced tradition, and has been for centuries and centuries and centuries. Um, Foretelling the future is a known practice, mostly within the Kabbalic side of things,
Mm.
um, not necessarily part of mainstream Judaism, but they absolutely have existed within the religion and often were adopted by religious leaders as well. Spells, incantations, and such, absolutely as well. So these things do exist, did exist. And of course, this leads us. Hey there, welcome, welcome.
Mm.
Um,
Hello, how are you?
and
Oh
they're gone.
God.
Okay, that seems to be a trend at the moment, but nevertheless.
Oh yeah.
So we've got also a number of uses of herbs and things for healing, which we know is associated greatly with magic and such in that regard. But weirdly enough, there's a particular branch that you don't often see in other cultures that are aimed either at specifically harming enemies or erotic spells.
Oh really?
Yeah, you did not know
Oh.
that.
Oh,
Well,
like
neither did
succubus.
I.
Are we
Uh,
talking about or like talk? Are we talking about succubus and all
no,
that?
these are spells done by people on people.
Oh, love spells.
So,
Love
not
spells.
necessarily love.
Not quite love, no, but
Can be
like
as
love.
well.
Mm.
But yes, so succubi and incubi are specifically demons.
Yeah.
That's a separate thing. This is specific magic. Now,
Mm.
key texts and practitioners and things that matter. Okay, the Baal Hashem were the experts in the use of the holy name again,
Yeah.
as well as other magical practices. The Sefer HaRazim is the most important book of mysteries on the Kabbalah, in case you're after it, and one of the very, very important texts, which apparently allows you to even bind archangels for varying purposes, is known as the Sword of Moses. These things went through a lot of different ways and things throughout history. And amongst other things, one of the great powers of Jewish magic, which you might not have realized, is that of golems. Yes.
A
Now,
golem? Yeah,
so
I heard.
golems are anthropomorphic beings, so a human-shaped creature made from inanimate matter like clay, animated by mystical powers and divine names, intended
Okay.
to protect the Jewish community from persecution.
Oh,
However,
shit.
there are problems with them because they are completely honest, they are completely literal. So if you don't word your instructions very carefully,
Oh,
they are
yeah.
incredibly dangerous.
That makes sense.
And all I'm saying is AI,
Yeah, there you
computers.
go. What
I'm
you're
just throwing
saying.
it out there. Just
No,
throwing
what you're
it out
saying
there.
is so totally makes
So
sense.
the Jews apparently could make these. The concept comes from the Kabbalah with early references in the Sefer Yezrah, and the most
Yeah.
famous expression happened in the 16th century with the legend of Rabbi Judah Loew ben Bezalel's golem in Prague, which protected the Jews from anti-Semitic threats. The golem serves as a symbol of creativity, power, and the moral dilemmas of playing God, because
Sure.
the golem started out doing great things for them, but ended up a serious threat. So,
Yeah.
we know it comes from the Kabbalah. We know that it's all to do with names and letters that are contained within the golem, that you
Yeah.
have to take the names out of the golem in order to uh,
Yeah.
stop it. So, one in the original story, on the golem's forehead was written in Hebrew the word meth, which means life. And the only way to stop it, given that it was 3 times bigger than a man and hugely muscled and ultimately indestructible, was to change the word from meth to emeth, death, and then it would die.
That's crazy, right?
Yes, good luck trying to stop a golem. Now,
Shoot.
in many ways, the importance of the golem is that it is an echo of Adam, the first human. The difference is that the golem is raw, unfinished substance, and it doesn't have the life breathed in that Adam had. And that's the
Sure.
difference. So some would claim it is a mockery of God.
It totally is though.
Well, it's a matter of opinion, I suppose. So,
But I mean, it's like what you're putting behind that. If you're saying it's the mockery of God, but you gotta add so many things behind it to be able to.
yes, so the golem will follow the creator's commands, but exactly. And in many versions of the story, it became uncontrollable and destructive. And in the end, Rabbi Loew had to change meth to emeth and remove the powers that kept it alive. They were, in fact, seen as a way to bring the creator uh, of the golem closer to God uh, and provide salvation and protection in that way. But again, the problem is we are not all knowing, and therefore to create
Yeah.
as God creates is dangerous.
That's really crazy.
So make of it what you will in that regard. But
But you're coming, yeah,
nevertheless,
you're coming with AI and all this
now
things these days.
this
Yeah.
is the thing, because we know that it inspired modern culture like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as well as stories after. but it also is a symbol of how technology can be a power of destruction. And we wonder how far we will go with AI. Maybe we do need to learn a certain bit from the failure of Judalo bin Bezalel.
No, for sure. But this movie I watched today, I'll tell you now, you'll be shocked. Uh, this lady, her daughter passed away from meningitis,
Okay?
and the mortician, she ended up bringing this child back from the dead.
You see, life and
Yeah,
death is not something that should be in our hands once it is
exactly.
closed. Now, interestingly enough, golems are not a big deal in the Middle East. They are not. Even though that's the origin of the Jews, they are far bigger in the other countries that the Jews moved to. So they are big in the Czech Republic and Germany, where the famous story of Rabbi Judah happens, but not so much
Yeah.
in the Middle East, though they are strongly part of that magic. So we have a whole collection of things there, and it goes back to all sorts of things. But what about the modern day? We've talked a lot about the past. Do we have anything now? And the answer is absolutely yes. Kabbalic magic and certain mystical traditions that are even slightly animistic do still exist within the Jewish magical understanding, but they are absolutely very much numerical in their magic. The
Yeah.
gematria, uh, the assignation of numbers and letters and names and how they work, uh, is very important. The amulets and charms are things that are inscribed with sacred names, Torah verses, or symbols like the Star of David, rather than like we would see in other cultures where they are containing herbs or stones or something. Though we do know that one of the things is the breastplate that the high priest would wear, which has the 12 stones on that represent the 12 tribes of Israel, but are also said to have mystical power as well. Maybe. We don't know for sure. Um, we have a lot of that going along, and with it, uh, belief in dreams and their interpretation, as well as casting lots and astrology. So, trying to understand the status of things and what the future may bring is
But
important.
but can I ask these days, like, say for instance, me as a person that believes I need an exorcism from a demon, right?
Okay.
Just theoretically. Here we come. Where would I go? What
It
would
would
I say?
depend entirely on your religion. And
As a Christian.
as a
Yeah,
Christian, you would go to your specific Christian church, speak
yeah.
with your minister, and it would not be a quick thing, it would be a
Yeah, it would take some
process.
time. A
And
process.
it dependent on what sort of thing it is, whether it is an influence, an infestation, a possession, uh, or a multiple possession, it would depend on whether or not it is handled by that minister or by an expert.
Sure. Okay, no, thank you so much for that.
So
Now,
it varies greatly.
yeah,
So sacred texts are the key to the Kabbalah.
yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, the text is the Tanakh, the original Hebrew Bible, what we tend to call the Old Testament. But then you will also have other texts of Jewish significance, like the Midrash and the Talmud, which have varying things in to form the basis of the practices. It is mostly unless it's misused, intended to be theurgic and achieve an influence over divine forces or powers for a specific income. It is absolutely all about manipulating words and letters and through numbers. Adam Lee, hello, welcome. I sees you there. It is very old. How old is arguable, and it is absolutely current as well. But that leads us to the very last topic, and I've been saving this to the end just for you, Endless Thoughts, because you asked this question right in the beginning. And it is, what about alchemy? And I have not forgotten. So, what about alchemy? What is alchemy? Well, it comes from the word chem, meaning the soil of the Nile, because its origins are in Egypt, though it was taken on and much developed in other parts of the Middle East. And the Arabic word is alkima, of the soils. So our understanding of alchemy, from which our modern word chemistry comes, literally means of the soil of the Nile. It started off really with the pharaonic Egypt times, from their belief in life after death and its metalworking traditions as the basis. It then developed in the Greco-Alexandrian Egypt and then moved among the Arabic countries of the Middle East, being developed greatly with key people like Averroes and Avicenna. It was said
Do you
that...
feel anything weird?
Weird? Why?
There's something inside me calling out to you that's kind of weird.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I
It's
didn't
all
mean to
good.
freak out.
Nope, it's all good. So, Egyptian in origin, built up by varying cultures in the Middle East, especially Islam, actually. They've had a very strong connection to it. Also influenced by India and China in certain times as well. Now, the 9th century onward was the heyday for Islamic alchemy. So Averroes and Avicenna, who later became hugely popular among the philosophers of the West, and are still taught today. Obviously, Avicenna and Averroes are the Latinized version of their names. The original was Ibn Sina and Ibn Rushd back in the day. This developed in the 12th century into European alchemy, which became very much magical on the one side, but then developed across into early science, medicine, and such, and formed the basis for Western medicines and science. The greatest times of it involved all kinds of serious attempts in the Middle Ages to create the Chrysopoeia and, of course, the famous Philosopher's Stone. And if you are a Harry Potter fan, the Philosopher's Stone was something people really did try to get. And the chap in question that they speak of as being the man who mostly sought the Philosopher's Stone was a very real person who absolutely did exist, not just in Harry Potter, and really was trying to create the Philosopher's Stone, though whether or not he did is another question. Of course, this developed into the scientific revolution and the transition to chemistry until we got what we've got today. So, Chrysopoeia is the transmutation of base metals into noble metals. So lead into gold. It is said in some ways that it is supposed to also be a reflection of the attempt to transmogify your own spirit into a higher state. And so it's symbolic in that. Now, we know that the Philosopher's Stone was a big deal. We know that it was supposed to be the basis of making the universal cure for all diseases, to making elixirs of immortality, and all of that, and achieving true spiritual purification. So, alchemy, alchemia, natural philosophy, philosophical and proto-scientific tradition, yes, very. You okay there?
Sorry,
No, it's all good. You're right.
I think I'm okay. Sorry, did I say
Now, I thought you had said something I must have misheard. It's all good. So,
sorry about that.
no problem. Alchemy, referred to as the art, techne in Greek, who wrote a great deal about it in the early times. Um, episteme, knowledge, eusos tyche, the idea of the mystic, the iera, or the sacred, and the divine, theia. So this forms the basis for what became Western alchemy, the use of the noble metals which reflected the great powers, the perfection of the human body and soul, the great work, with the idea of that being all tied to that one basic ingredient that caused all the other potions to work, the Philosopher's Stone. Now, this developed with what they called practical philosophy. So, ancient Greek philosophy was not only about thinking, it was about doing as well. And this developed further on into Latin alchemy, which, as we know, then was taken up by a number of people who used it for its scientific side, physical science, and has led both to extreme con artists, some really weird people that did some crazy stuff, and some real geniuses. Is it okay to say alchemy is the herbalism in liquid form? Well, a lot of herbs are in liquid form as well. I think the key thing about alchemy is that it went beyond herbalism in that it used a great many things, not just herbs. So you will find a lot of metals, stones, um, weird other animal parts also, which expanded greatly on what herbalists used. Whether or not they were a good idea, if you've ever read the Leech Book of Bald, which is a manuscript from very early England, written in Old English, which is much closer to German than it is to modern English, you would quickly realize that some of the potions that they made that were supposed to cure things, yeah, I would not have taken them. They were nasty. They involved cuck that you don't want at all in you. Just saying. But then again, people were trying in that regard. Now we know that this developed on, and there were certain people, such as there was a tribe that does really exist that came from a particular mountain in the Middle East that were famous for their use of hashish, and they were mercenaries and assassins. And the word assassin actually comes from them. The hashish assassins, the users of the hashish, because they used drugs and alchemy to make themselves stronger, faster, stay awake, and as poisons and things as well. And they were literally the most terrifying assassins of the whole area because of these skills, as well as being absolutely nutcases because they'd be off their head going into battles and were really highly trained. So if you can imagine someone that even if you give them a fairly mortal blow, they just shrug it off and carry on because, hey, they can because they're so high, you can imagine they'd be quite terrifying. Now, of course, this was a mixed bag of things because your Chinese alchemy had already been developing for centuries. Your Indian alchemy had already been developing for centuries. You got all of this Egyptian and Arabic alchemy, and combining them all together, this developed into quite the thing. And of course, it led to some pretty impressive stuff, including the important parts, our modern medicine. I do not understand, Jacqueline, but I do hope you're all right. You look after yourself there, girl. Now, interestingly enough, you can transmute lead into gold because on the table of elements that we use today, you will realize that they are separated only by a couple of electrons, actually. The only problem is the means by which you would have to use to turn lead into gold would make it so radioactive you couldn't go near it for, I don't know, about 10,000 years. But you can do it. So they were right. It would just kill you. Which probably means that it's not a good idea to try to turn lead into gold. Just saying. But again, one of those things. So take it as you will in that regard. And that, my dear friends, was alchemy. And of course, hey, you okay there?
Sorry about that. I felt really weird for a second.
No, that's quite all right. Do not worry. We fully understand.
But no, like, sorry. But
All good. So, we now need to wrap up on all of things. What are witches? From what we've seen, basically, you have 5 major religions. And strictly speaking, what we call a witch is any one of the religions that are not one of those 5. That's really how it works. In a great many cultures, a witch is evil. However, key point, that doesn't mean all magic users are evil. So, like in South Africa, what we call a witch does bad magic, abatagati, but what the good ones use is still magic, but we don't call them witches because what they do is good, which changes the view in that regard. So the reason that witches have such a bad rep is because most cultures use the word to refer to the bad users of magic, not the good users of magic. Words have changed, however, and Endless Thoughts has beat me once again. yes, words have changed. You are just right there. Um, Herbalists and alchemists, now a pharmacist and a chemist. Yes, and in fact the word pharmacist comes from the Greek pharmatikos, a healer, quite literally. So are they witchcraft? They were. It came from witchcraft, the old ways. So, strictly speaking, now with the advent of neo paganism, we have a strong movement to reclaim the word witch as a good thing, which, fine, I mean, I see no wrong with that, if that's what would help. Um, I think that what we call magic is just unexplained science in many ways. So, no, Jacqueline, there's no need to be scared in any manner or form. It's not something that is bad necessarily at all. And what we strictly gave as our definition of magic right back in the beginning was the one kindly given to us by Gerald Gardner, that it is the crossing of articulate with inarticulate forces, which means that any priest or priestess technically is using magic in some way. So, in that regard, we definitely will say that magic is alive and well, and it mostly has a great deal to do with words and viewpoint. Um, Now, words are the basis of all spells, and how we write them is spelling. So perhaps magic is still around, and it still works, and it still is in every part of our lives. And indeed, we are even taught it in school, which may or may not tell you something. Endless thoughts. It might show you that we are taught magic. And the problem is we just don't look on it in that way. So, I don't know. Perhaps, perhaps not. Maybe. Can we say more than that? I don't know. But it is absolutely very, very interesting. But with all of that said, we can say that I think it isn't the magic that we should fear, nor the witches, but rather any person with a bad heart, because whether or not they use magic or a stick, harm to another is harm to another. So perhaps we need to take it um, in account to what people do and whether or not we are decent human beings, regardless of what we call ourselves or what others call us. Perhaps that's a lesson to be taken. I don't know. But on that, we are now going to end our view of witches. And to recap what we have covered thus far, we have looked at ghosts, which we keep coming back to for varying reasons. Cryptids, including things like the jinn, which we keep coming back to, which seems suspicious. They keep turning up. Um, we have gone over curses. We have gone over aliens. And of course, all of these things and witches are a very important basis, because in our next topic, which we are going to start looking at, which is indeed supernatural and paranormal and very, very strange, we are going to look at architecture and archaeology. And you would be amazed at how weird it can actually get. Why are there pyramids all over the world? How come so many cultures have come up with the idea of there being a flood over the whole world, even though that they would never have necessarily had any contact between each other, if such a thing didn't actually occur and we were there? They say that dinosaurs existed long before people, and yet we found ones where dinosaur footprints overlap human footprints, implying that we lived around the same time. Are we actually quite wrong about history? Because they've found strange things like modern style hammers encased in rock, things in Egyptian paintings that look remarkably like a cell phone. We found helicopters and laptops in ancient Mayan carvings. What the hell is going on? And did Atlantis really exist? These are questions we're going to have to start looking at, because one of the strangest things I ever saw was a sudden realization that for no apparent reason, the Easter Island heads, which, big and huge as they are, would have been a massive undertaking to put up, actually have bodies buried under the ground. They're even bigger than anyone thought. Why? What were they for? What's going on? Because archaeology and architecture have got a hell of a lot to answer for. So, we're going to start looking at ancient star maps, one of which is in South Africa. Ah, you didn't know that, did you? We are going to look at the star maps of the Dogon. We're going to look at the pyramids. We're going to look at the very strange carvings of Göbekli Tepe. We are going to talk briefly about things like the Voynich manuscript, about strange computers that were built, 500 BC. Wait, what? Is time really all that we think it is? We've seen photographs from the 20s, and in the background is somebody with a cell phone. How did that happen? We've come across way too many anomalies that are far too quickly explained away, that mere aliens and witchcraft are practically mundane by comparison. And who knows, maybe we really do come from another planet. Maybe that series Stargate wasn't that far off. Are there things we ought to know? Maybe there is. And maybe we need to find them out. Because quite honestly, I ain't sure anymore that everything that we've been taught is really quite as true as we think it is. Maybe it's much more supernatural. And with that in mind, let's see if we can find out some very, very interesting and different histories in the next topic. And if you've got any questions, comments, or ideas that you'd like researched, let me know, because there's a lot out there and we absolutely want to know more. And the only way we're going to find out is by asking all the bad questions. Huge thanks to, sorry, my eyesight is really gonna, Harv, that's very, very, very kind. Thank you very much there, Matilda. That's very kind. And thank you for the share. Remember, guys, the channel goes on by the support of you. So like, share, subscribe, join in, comment lots and all of the good bits so that we can keep this going as much as possible. And massive thanks to Endless Thoughts, who has always been a major supporter. And you are absolutely correct. I'm actually thinking I want to start off with some of the South American buildings. I think that by and large, it will be a very good choice. Matilda, join us tomorrow on the live. We start at 10 o'clock South African time because we're about to end. And I would love to have you on, and you can bring all sorts of commentary then so that we can actually get a bit of time to chat. So 10 o'clock South African time, that's GMT plus 2 in the evening, we will be doing another live. And the topic is going to be archaeology and architecture and things that just don't make sense. And I think that we need to start with the Mayan and Aztec carvings, where we're going to see some stuff that really doesn't add up. And I will do my best to research as much as I can and possibly find a few good pictures for everyone to have a good look at. So join me tomorrow. Remember, like, share, subscribe, do the good stuff. Give me that support. I want it, and I'm greedy. But until then, it's been absolutely fantastic having you along. I hope I will see you tomorrow. And I do hope that you will look after yourself and keep yourselves safe. Remember, we are here for curiosity and enjoyment. So make sure that you do both. And with that, I'm going to say, have a wonderful night. Sleep deep, sleep sweet, but sleep with one eye open. Keep that holy object near at hand just in case. Because remember, there are a lot of things out there, my dears, that go bump in the night. And if we are not careful, they might very well go bump for you. Have a good night. Especially you, Endless Thoughts, and Jacqueline, thank you so much. And for those who have been a part of this, have a wonderful evening. Be blessed.